Well, for the third time in a row, the Walt Disney Company has just decided to yank another Pixar movie from theaters. This one, Turning Red, that was set to release March 11th of this year, 2022. Theaters are not happy, and quite frankly, the Hollywood media is starting to get behind the theaters' attitudes towards Disney's attitude towards them. I'm going to call a bunch of BS on some of the stuff I'm about to read. Let's get into it. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. Bit of a surprise on this video. I wasn't expecting to record one on a Friday afternoon, but I got home and I saw this, and this leapt out at me. I said, all right, I got to do one. I'm probably going to wind up posting this at a terrible time. It'll probably get all of 4 views, but I'm going to do it anyway because this is the kind of stuff I like to talk about. Welcome back. Hello to all my subs. Thank you for being here. For all the people that aren't subscribed, watching a video for the first time, welcome aboard. And I hope you take a minute to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and do, by all means, please drop a comment with any questions you might have before you leave. I do my best to try to respond to as many comments as possible, and thank you, everyone, for being here. So let's talk about this, because there's a lot more to this in my mind than what is in the press right now, and I think the press is even kind of hinting at this, and I'm going to show you some actual financial data points that's going to back up my extreme suspicions of what's going on here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. So this is a movie, Turning Red, which I had completely forgotten about. Probably most of you are just hearing of this new big-budget Pixar movie for the first time watching this video. It has really slipped under the radar. Disney has not been promoting this terribly much. I do recall seeing a trailer for this somewhere in the last few months, or at least a teaser for it. But here we are. This is just from today, from just a couple of hours ago, as I'm recording this video from our buddy Anthony D'Alessandro at Deadline Magazine, who we always talk about because he covers the box office almost better than anybody else, or I'd say maybe that's just better than anybody else out there in Hollywood. So really appreciate what he does, gives us some great content here. So all credit to Mr. D'Alessandro on this one. So let's talk about this. So Turning Red was the next big film from Pixar, and it has just been ripped from the theaters by Disney today, or yesterday, late last night. It was slated for a March 11th exclusive theatrical release with a 45-day exclusive window. That is gone. It's not even going to be in theaters anymore. It is going to be exclusively on Disney Plus. At this point, I cannot find any confirmation one way or the other whether this is going to be a Premier Access title or just dropped on Disney Plus gratis for free. I am leaning to the latter rather than the former. Why? Because Disney has done this twice before, both with Pixar movies, the last 2 Pixar movies in a row. In fact, this makes number 3. Something else is going on here. Let's talk about this. The Disney Pixar movie Turning Red will not debut in theaters on Friday, March 11th. Instead, it's heading exclusively to Disney Plus worldwide, a big subtraction to movie theaters that were looking to play this title, and at a time when Omicron was looking to calm. It's the third Pixar movie to skip theaters and go straight to Disney Plus after Soul and LUCA. Now, I've watched Soul. It was okay. LUCA, I saw a little bit of, didn't really get into it. I think the kids watched it. They didn't have much to say about that when it was over. I have a feeling maybe this movie's kind of the same. Let's keep reading from the article, though. The international markets where Disney Plus is not available, Turning Red will be released theatrically with dates yet to be announced. And again, from the article, this is from Mr. D'Alessandro, for those of you that are not watching but just listening. It would be prudent for Disney to know in advance from its diagnostics whether a movie is meant for theaters or Disney Plus. It's just a fair thing to do for cinemas, which truly have been challenged during the pandemic. If Disney didn't have theatrical confidence in the movie, then don't date it. It's that simple. Don't tease theaters that are expecting product from you and counting on certain income. Sounds fair, Disney. No? Those are words from Deadline magazine. That's pretty strong language coming from Deadline. Very strong language, in my opinion. I mean, I understand that this is one writer's opinion. This is Mr. D'Alessandro's opinion, but this went through the editorial board at Deadline, and they let this through. I'm really stunned by this. I really am. This is some pretty harsh, challenging language coming from Deadline, targeted right at Disney's distribution wing. This is something. Back to the article. Soul, according to Samba TV, drew a first weekend audience of 2.4 million over December 25th through 27th, 2020, just over a year ago. I watched it that weekend with my kids in smart TV homes. Samba didn't monitor Luca, which I didn't realize, but yeah, they're right. I never saw Samba numbers on Luca. So there's no data on whether or not that was a success. Well, again, we can measure success to a degree when we see what Disney streaming numbers have done quarter to quarter in terms of new subscribers. We do know that through the entirety of 2021, at least officially up through the end of the fourth fiscal quarter, which was the third calendar quarter, or September 30th of this year, we know that Disney Plus, at least in the major markets, really had not picked up many subs. All the growth that Disney has really had, or all the growth they have had in the last year, has really come from international markets, particularly India. Almost 37 or 40% of total Disney Plus subscribership numbers right now come from India, where they pay 65 to 70 cents a month at the low end for subscriptions. They're very ad-based. They do have some higher level tiers, but even the highest level tier only costs about $15 to $20 per year US equivalent. Okay, so very, very cheap. This is why the average revenue per average revenue per user for Disney Plus is so inordinately low when compared to other streaming counterparts like HBO Max, Netflix, Discovery, so on and so forth. Back to the article. Last year, just as movie theaters were reopening in New York City and LA, Disney debuted Raya and the Last Dragon in theaters and on Disney+. Cinemark, which is the second largest theater chain in the country, by the way, Cinemark initially refused to play the movie over those terms, which we've talked about here before. When I told you that when you go day and date with streaming releases, theaters are either going to not let you in traditionally, or they're going to demand a much higher cut of the box office revenues, which if you watch my last video that we put out just Friday morning, that was talking about the entirety of Disney's 2021 box office and how bad of a failure it was, I was actually giving them a little bit higher percentage credit for those movies than I think they probably really got because of exactly what I just said, because the first half of their slate in 2021 were concurrent releases on Disney+. I was basically still giving them rental revenues sharing that was on par with had they been theatrical only. So my numbers might be a little off, but in the wrong way for Disney. So the movie fizzled at the box office, Raya and the Last Dragon, with 54.7 million. Samba didn't measure the audience for that animated feature either. So that's the Deadline article. Now I've got a couple others referencing the same thing, but with some additional information. So let's head over here right now to Variety Magazine. Slide this in here real quick. So here we are with Variety Magazine. Pixar's Turning Red skips theaters, will debut on Disney Plus in March. Again, released right around the same time as the article from Deadline, just a couple of 2 or 3 hours ago. So let's look at this, because this has a little bit more. They do talk about in this one, the family-friendly animated film follows Soul and Luca as fellow Pixar releases went straight to the streaming platform. The Toy Story spinoff Lightyear, which of course is also Pixar, starring Chris Evans, is still slated to release in theaters on June 17th. Now let me stop here. I do not believe, or I put it this way, I would fall out of my chair if Disney yanked that film from theaters and put it exclusively on Disney Plus, even with Premier Access. And the reason is two things. One, it's a Toy Story property, which has an instant built-in audience draw. And number two, Chris Evans. That man probably has a significant participation deal in that film. Disney would probably have to stroke him a pretty serious check. If they did that, think about what happened to Scarlett Johansson last year. This movie was being made and produced, around the same time before Black Widow would have come out. So we don't know what his contract says. We don't know if there were stipulations in there for streaming-only releases. I suspect his contract was very much like Miss Scarlett Johansson's. So that would cause some issue if Disney decided to do that. So that's why I'm a little skeptical. I don't think that will happen. And nor should they. That should be a movie that will draw people in. So, I'm going to go through this, but I want to say, there was one thing in here, one statement here that I thought was very telling, and then I'm going to talk about why I'm going to call BS on this completely. Quote from the article, and a quote in the article. Disney Plus subscribers around the world enthusiastically embraced Pixar's Academy Award-winning Soul and the critically acclaimed Luca. Did they? I don't know. I've not seen any numbers from Disney Plus on this, at least not on Luca, when they premiered. Back to the quote, we look forward to bringing them to Pixar's next incredible feature film, Turning Red, said Kareem Daniel, the chairman of Disney Media and Entertainment Distribution, in a statement. Quote, he continues, given the delayed box office recovery, particularly for family films, yeah, okay. We're going to talk about that one. But back to the quote. Flexibility remains at the core of our, Disney's, distribution decisions, and we prioritize delivering the unparalleled content of the Walt Disney Company to audiences around the world. Now, understand that this movie has a lot of Asian representation in it in terms of the voice actors, which is fine and great. I have no issue with that, so I don't want to hear any comments about it. So I just find it a little funny that they're going to pull this movie after all we've heard in the last several months about wanting to get these type of representation films into theaters, making these movies, especially with, I believe, a female director, Pixar's first female director, and a woman of color, my understanding. Her movie is now being ripped out of the theaters. So let's talk about why. I don't believe for a second we don't know the delayed box office recovery, particularly for family films, bogus. Let's talk about why. Right here. Sing 2 versus ENCANTO. These two movies came out roughly a month apart. Okay? ENCANTO came out with, as far as family films were concerned, basically no competition. ENCANTO, at the end of day 16, had reached $61.9 million in domestic box office. Again, with very little competition at that point in terms of an animated film, a family film. Now, you had Ghostbusters Afterlife running around by then. So, again, bear that in mind. However, Sing 2, after 16 days at $97 million, a substantially higher performance. This is just domestic box office. Sing 2, after 16 days, $97 million to ENCANTO's $62 almost million. Almost a 50% greater performance for Sing 2. And Sing 2 came out just a few days, not even a week, after Spider-Man No Way Home. Your move, Disney. So don't tell me the audiences aren't out there. Don't tell me they're not going. Oh, by the way, here's the other part of the problem. Right down here. Production budget for Sing 2, $85 million. Production budget for ENCANTO, $150 million. By the way, ENCANTO's run in the theaters is basically a turkey at this point, as it has been dropped on Disney Plus on Christmas Eve for free with your subscription. So there's no other real money for ENCANTO to make at the box office. Currently, right now, ENCANTO's total global run stands at $206 million, with Sing 2 currently at $152 million. Again, bear in mind, ENCANTO has been out now for 45 days compared to Sing 2's 16. That is a huge difference. I mean, Sing 2, by the end of its run, will have probably hauled in maybe $50 million more than ENCANTO. It's very possible that it can pull in another $100 million at this point. Maybe not. But the point, even if it reaches 225, it's still done way better just because its production budget is almost half that of ENCANTO. So this is where we are, and this is my point. We have had movies come out this year. Spider-Man 2, or excuse me, Spider-Man No Way Home. I wouldn't exactly call it a family film, like a cartoon film. It's certainly not animated. But we know factually from the data that was collected by marketing research firms like Intelligence, like ComScore, PostTrack, all these places that collect the data, report to places like Deadline, and then we talk about it here at Valiant Renegade. We've covered this at length with our Spider-Man videos. The families are out there en masse. They're going to see films. They were at Spider-Man No Way Home. Then they turned around and went to go see, if they couldn't get tickets for that, they went to go see Ghostbusters Afterlife, and they went to go see Sing 2. They're there, Disney. What's your problem? You know, maybe it's not the fact that families aren't showing up. Maybe it's that Disney is realizing they're not showing up for the movies that they have ready to go. It seems more likely to me at this point. I think what this boils down to is that Disney itself, and here is an article from Yahoo Finance, there is something here as well. The fact that Turning Red won't premiere on the silver screen is a shame because it marks the full-length directorial debut of one of Pixar's most promising young talents, Domee Shi. She won an Academy Award in 2019 for her work on the short film Bao. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, which was shown alongside Incredibles 2 in theaters. I remember that. It was actually a very good short. Turning Red is set in Shi's hometown of Toronto, Canada. Tells the story of Mei Li. A lot of Asian representation in the actors, like I said before. The fact that Turning Red won't have a theatrical run is likely to significantly affect its earning potential. Oh, you think? Yeah, it's going to go from having an earning potential of a couple $100 million maybe to nothing, because that's what they make on Disney Plus. Nothing. If there's a silver lining, it's that families will at least have the opportunity to see the film from the safety of their homes. Oh, please. Please. Look, we know, again, the data is out there. It's irrefutable at this point. I understand that there is a small, and I do mean a small segment of the population at this point, in terms of the core movie-going audience. I'm not talking about the 55 and 65-plus-year-olds. They're not going to see most movies that are out there these days. Okay, we're talking about the 18 to 45-year-olds, the parents, the kids, the teenagers, on down to the 10-year-olds and stuff, like little kids like that. They're going to see Spider-Man. They're going to see Ghostbusters. They're going to see Sing 2. Why can't they go see this? So this is why I have a problem with this, and this is why I'm calling BS on this stuff, the way Disney is putting this out there, because the numbers don't frickin' lie. The bottom line is that between Soul and Luca and now this one, why did they put ENCANTO in theaters then? Why was, ENCANTO's a Disney Animation Studios. It's not Pixar. That was put in theaters. Again, I think part of what did ENCANTO win was the fact that it was announced that it was going to go on to Disney Plus after 30 days. If Disney would stop doing things like that, they would probably drive more people to the theaters. Probably would have also helped to have a movie that maybe appealed to a broader audience. It didn't look like ENCANTO really did. It's a shame, but this is where we are. I have a feeling that Disney they've lost confidence in these Pixar films, outside of things like Toy Story and by extension, things like Lightyear, which is attached to it. I don't know, but I don't buy this for 1 second. Disney, I think, put a vote of no confidence in this film and decided, frankly, they didn't want to get embarrassed at the box office again. That's it. Hope you have a good weekend. Good to see everybody. And until next time, take care.